Donald Trump has long been accused of racism, and now he seems to be invoking Jim Crow voter suppression at an extreme level, says political commentator Maya Rupert.
This should be disqualifying. For him to say so plainly that he plans on jailing his opponents and extending that to voters, to donors, to political operatives, he is trying to, it is voter suppression at the highest order. He is trying to scare people out of participating in the process.
On Truth Social this weekend, Trump wrote, "Cease and desist. I, together with many attorneys and legal scholars, am watching the sanctity of the 2024 presidential election very closely because I know better than most the rampant cheating and skullduggery that has taken place by the Democrats in the 2020 presidential election. It was a disgrace to our nation. Therefore, the 2024 election, where votes have just started being cast, will be under the closest professional scrutiny, and when I win, those people that cheated will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences so that this depravity of justice does not happen again."
And it should not be treated as, oh, that's just Donald Trump melting down on social media again. We have to stop this. He has a different bar because we're so used to him spouting nonsense. That is terrifying. And everyone who is talking to him and talking to anyone supporting him should be leading with, how do you feel about that?
But even if Donald Trump is asked about his alleged voter suppression efforts, the answer will likely not be very satisfying. Because less than 9 weeks before Election Day, Donald Trump is doubling down on his incendiary and aggressive rhetoric across the board. In Wisconsin over the weekend, Trump hammered migrants and cited debunked claims of an undocumented migrant takeover in Colorado.
In Colorado, they've taken over. In Colorado, they're so brazen, they're taking over sections of the state. And, getting them out will be a bloody story. Should have never been allowed to come into our country. Nobody checked them. Nobody checked, were they criminals? Were they from jails?
Getting them out, said Trump, will be a bloody story. Donald Trump has already promised that if he's elected, he will conduct the largest mass deportation in U.S. history, and he seems to be laying the groundwork for the use of violence and force. The irony with the anecdote about Colorado is that the claim about migrants taking over is false. Police in Colorado have refuted claims by Republican Aurora Mayor Mike Kaufman that gangs of Venezuelan migrants have taken over apartment buildings in his city. The wild assertions, though, have gone viral thanks to Republican amplification, including now by Donald Trump.
These people are tough. I always say they make our criminals look like nice people. At the time it happened, people said I would win Colorado. Colorado's traditionally not a Republican state. But I was actually tied and leading in polls in Colorado because people were so incensed at what this governor and his cronies had done by trying to strip the Republican Party of their candidate. So if I don't win Colorado, it will be taken over by migrants and the governor will be sent fleeing, because the people of Colorado should really do something that would be a classic. They should do a major protest vote in favor of Trump to reject the threat to democracy that they caused by an attempt at ballot removal.
And there's Trump circling back to his wild and unproven claims of election fraud. MSNBC's Joe Scarborough, who's one of the most influential anti-Trump voices in political media, is now accusing Trump's supporters of deliberately choosing to embrace lies when buying into Donald Trump's claims.
Donald Trump's own staff members watched in 2020. And do you know what they said? The person who was in charge of actually watching the election that Donald Trump put in charge, Chris Krebs said it was the cleanest, fairest election on record. Of course, Donald Trump, see, and this is the thing. People go, oh, I don't know what to believe because Donald Trump says this, but then I turn on this cable news channel that's lying for 24 hours a day on the right, and they tell me that what he's saying is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Or they don't talk about it.
You know what the truth is, and you deliberately choose lies. You know where the light is, and you deliberately choose the darkness. You do it deliberately because you know, and I know, 63 federal judges said there was no evidence of any fraudulent behavior, any widespread voter fraud in 2020.
But here in 2024, Donald Trump is making false claims about the election vote again. In a rant on Truth Social over the weekend, Trump reposted allegations made by a guest on Tucker Carlson's podcast, who argued that 20% of the Pennsylvania mail-in ballots are fraudulent. Here we go again, said Trump. And there goes Trump again with his evidence-free conspiracy theories and stoking of possible political violence. The New York Times was so alarmed on this day that the paper reposted an editorial from July calling Trump dangerous and unfit to lead. The newspaper has often papered over some of Trump's incoherent and outrageous statements, but on this day, the editorial board wrote, a political party now serves the interest of one man, a man as demonstrably unsuited for the office of president as any to run in the long history of the republic. The media condemnation of Trump is helpful, but a lot of political scientists and political strategists believe that even reasoned and logical mainstream media assertions about Donald Trump are not as powerful as the raw emotions and rage Trump keeps whipping up among millions of Americans. And that Trump rage, that Trump bet on appealing to America's most hateful impulses, is growing. By the way, a host on Fox News recently gave MAGA World a brutal fact check.
We also do have nonpartisan groups like the Penn Wharton group that put out their budget model and said that Donald Trump would take the deficit 5.8 trillion she'd only add 1.2 trillion. You had Goldman Sachs that came out today and they said that the GDP will significantly decrease under Donald Trump and it'll continue to increase under Kamala Harris. Look at what Moody's has said, also nonpartisan, talking about how if you're going to round up a bunch of immigrants and you're going to have tariffs, which he keeps saying isn't a tax on consumers, and that's what the national tax is that people are talking about, if you're going to implement tariffs, guess what's going to happen? The economy is going to suffer for it. That's not what Kamala Harris is proposing in the American public.
Check out that video at the link below. It generated a lot of comments on YouTube. One of the most popular is from King Return, who wrote, Jessica is a true patriot. God bless you, little lady, and your family. Stick to your truth. I agree. Jessica Tarlov is a national media treasure. I look forward to reading your comments about Donald Trump now engaging in apparent voter suppression and doubling down on his crazy conspiracy theories. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.